Hi, welcome back to Celebrating Culture. We're here at St. Joseph in Gretna, and I'm with Father Frank, who's been here for 40 years with St. Joseph. Father, welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to be with you again.
So tell me, before you started the altar here, you were in Sicily.
Well, I was ordained a priest in Sicily, and my parents came from there. But I was born in Pennsylvania, but I learned all about this tradition here in New Orleans. I heard about it up in Pennsylvania, but up north it wasn't as prominent. It was only kind of families used to celebrate it.
St. Joseph is special to the Sicilians.
Very much so.
So tell me, how did you get the idea to do an altar, and what was the first one like?
When I came into this parish, which was March the 19th, 1980, I said my first Mass here in this church. And they used to have an altar, but it fell apart. I mean, the people left. So I said, well, I heard all about it, and other people were having it. So I said, well, next year I hope to have one. So I started it. I didn't know what it was like. And it was just like one 8-foot table with a statue of St. Joseph with some cakes and cookies. Well, then about 2 years later, this lady came by and helped me out. She had an altar in her home, and she was going to discontinue. So I said, well, why not come to my church and we're the ladies and we can start it up again. That was about 1983. And ever since, as I say, the rest is history.
Wow.
And we just enlarged it from 2 8-foot tables to 4 to 6 to 8. And now it's, I don't know how many tables involved in there, but it's about maybe 8 or 10 8-foot tables.
And how many people, the volunteers?
Well, from the church, and then ladies, you know, they always have their friends, they invite them, and it just expands exponentially.
I'm thinking it's over 1,000 people that will get fed here.
Oh, more than that, sometimes 2,000 to 3,000.
The line is...
Sometimes they come with buses, and they start feeding right after the little children. The whole family are fed, and then from then they go to about 6:30 at night.
So the feeding of the children, what is that to symbolize?
It goes back to the tradition of the Christmas, that there was no room in the inn for Mary to give birth to Jesus. So they reenact the Christmas scene. Is there any room for you? Joseph would knock on the door, and they say there's no room. Then the Trinity, all three is perfect. So the third time you ask, is there any room? Then you say yes, and then the little family can come in. And then, of course, the family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and you feed the children.
What are they feeding them?
Well, the tradition of food is all the pasta milanese, which is a special tomato sauce made with anchovy, pine nuts, fennel, and flavoring. And then also there's fried fish and all vegetables, usually cabbage, artichoke, stuffed artichokes, carrots, the cabbage, all vegetables, and usually they're made in casserole, or they're made like little potatoes or fried, you know what I mean?
Wow.
With,
I noticed the ladies feed them.
And then also the big thing is also the cookies. And in the Sicilian, they call them cuccidati, which they get the dough, like fig Newtons, but they're made with the ground figs with citrus in it and some nuts, and then they roll it out and they bake them and decorate them with different sprinkles on the color. And you'll see that on the altar, all various types of fig cookies and plain almond cookies, some chocolate flavored. Over in Sicily, they didn't have chocolates. They used to, they're called the carob bean. It has a chocolate flavor. And so all these are traditions and the tradition of the altar used to be that if something happened during the year, some accident or somebody was sick, or another tradition was a woman couldn't get pregnant. So you notice on the altar there are some lemons.
Yes.
And the story was that if you ate one of the lemons from the St. Joseph altar that was blessed, you will get pregnant. And actually here, a few years ago, it did happen.
It's a fertility,
That's
lemons
right.
and fertility.
But so it's like a votive offering. You need a grace of special favor from God. They would say, grant me this grace and I will have an altar in my house. And so what they would do, they would put in their home and they invite all their friends and they would put out the statue with all the candles and cook all the food. And then it was like a votive offering. You know,
Now, I understand the fava bean is really a very long string bean.
That's also the origin of the celebration too, because Sicily, back centuries ago, people were starving, and that nothing was to eat. So the fava bean was like a wild plant, and so the fava bean is what kept them alive. And so it saved them. And fava beans are supposed to be very nutritious in iron.
I heard that they used to feed them to the cattle, and that
Right.
during the drought they ate them themselves.
Right, but they're very nutritious though too. And so that's why they have the fava beans also. And then also tradition, keeping one, your lucky bean, carry it with you, you know.
Absolutely, I heard that too. But also, as far as as lucky bean in here today, the church has so much energy with putting on these altars. The altar's really grown.
Well, it had diminished because as the older people die off, the younger ones didn't keep it going. But now, since various groups have started putting an altar, someone said, we're going to do it too. And of course, you raise funds from it, ask for donations, and then the funds also are for charitable work.
So if someone does want to get involved, Father, they can go to the church to get in touch with the church to volunteer?
Or also Italian associations.
Okay.
There's a big one in New Orleans, and it's just it's like the Mardi Gras. You know, you
Absolutely.
join a club, a crew, and we're going to put on St. Joseph altar.
The crew of St. Joseph.
That's right.
Father, I want to thank you for being on the show and for what you've done to Gretna and for St. Joseph's. It's amazing to see where we are today, and I look forward to the 40th.
And I know we're an Italian feast day, but I'll use the French saying down here, let the good times roll.
They need to. And
Okay.
St. Joseph makes them roll. This is a great feast, and they are rolling today.
Okay.
Thank you, Father.
God bless.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Celebrating Culture.